Good afternoon. Here are some updates from the federal trial of Sean Diddy Combs. Before calling Enrique Santos to the stand, Assistant U.S. Attorney Christy Slavic reviewed a screenshot of a text message thread between Christina Karam, Sean Diddy Combs' former chief of staff, and Cassie Ventura. According to the metadata, the photo was taken on September 30th, 2016. Ventura texted Karam, "I found out some crazy shit." Ventura then said, "He came into my house while my friends were here, and we were all sleeping, and they woke me up because he was ringing the bell crazy at 3 a.m. And when he came in, I went to my room, and he went at Bona, choked her, and then dangled her feet off the balcony. This is crazy." Ventura then said, "I have to stay away." The screenshot was recovered from Karam's phone, which was seized at a Florida airport on March 25th, 2024. Enrique Santos, an analyst at SDNY who performs forensic examinations of electronic devices, then took the stand. Keep in mind, the judge did warn Combs for nodding at the jury because that could be used in a potential appeal. Uh, Judge Subramaniam's warning to the defense that Combs could be excluded from the courtroom if he continues to interact with the jury could be used on a potential appeal, and this is according to a chief analyst for CNN, Laura Coates. Direct examination went pretty quickly, and then defense attorney Tenny Garagos began cross-examining the forensic analyst. Digital forensic analyst Enrique Santos testified that he extracted data from 3 iPhones belonging to Cassie Ventura. He said investigators recovered several deleted records from the devices. Santos testified that when the deleted records were recovered, certain messages lost contact names or had strange characters inserted into names. Santos confirmed that there were many deleted messages on the 3 devices. When asked, Santos confirmed that if a text message thread is captured in a screenshot, the capture date of the screenshot does not mean that's when the photographed text message conversation occurred. Santos then left the stand, which is true. A lot of people think that the date that they took a screenshot means something. Not really. You can go back, if you never delete a text message, years, depending on your storage of your phone, and take a screenshot of it today. That doesn't mean that conversation happened today. And for those that are like, why would that need to be explained in court? Because some people don't know this, and some people act real dumb when it comes to real evidence. Jane, a single mother, began dating Combs in 2020, Assistant U.S. Attorney Emily Johnson said in opening statements. Combs promised that if they did freak offs, they would spend quality time together, but it was a lie, Johnson said. Instead, he allegedly forced her to take drugs and stay awake for days at a time. The prosecution called the witness testifying under the pseudonym Jane to the stand. Judge Aaron Subramaniam read the jury an instruction about witnesses testifying under pseudonyms. He reminded the panel that they will learn Jane's true identity, but it won't be said publicly in court. The jury was then shown Jane's driver's license with her identifying information. Assistant U.S. Attorney Maureen Comey asked Jane who she was in a relationship with from 2021 to 2024. Sean Combs, she responded. She said she called Combs Sean Baby Ernie Snookums. She said they called each other Bert and Ernie like the characters from Sesame Street. Normally I wouldn't yuck a yum, but this monster that we're talking about. Ew. Wanting Cassie to call him by what she calls her grandfather, and now this. Okay. Jane testified that she first met Combs on a girls' trip to Miami, Florida in late 2020. She met Combs, who was romantically involved with a friend who was also on the trip, at a dinner he hosted at his Miami home. Combs paid for the trip, Jane testified. She was dating your friend. Sometimes it's best to be a girl's girl. Sometimes it is best to be loyal to your friends because it will save you from a whole lot of unnecessary drama. She recalled the trip lasting about 5 days and seeing Combs on about 3 of them. Jane said the first night she met Combs he was really hospitable and funny. He was really charming, really nice, and I was really drawn to him pretty instantly, she said. The group started at Combs' Miami home, and then they went to a party on a yacht. There was a little bit of flirting going on, Jane testified, of those early encounters. We'll have more updates in part 2 that will be linked in the comments. Part 2. Now, the two decided to exchange numbers and they chose the nicknames Bert and Ernie to put in each other's contact. Later that night, Jane said the group went back to Combs' home and used the pool. Jane went with Combs to his studio to get a pink powder drug after one of the other girls asked for the drugs. She recalled a man in the studio building gave Combs the pink powder. Jane asked them if the drug was safe, and she recalled they looked at her like, yeah, it's the best. Now, before y'all come at her for asking if a drug is safe, everybody doesn't know everything about things, and a lot of people, their only interaction, their only knowledge of an illicit substance is marijuana. Jane's group left Combs' house abruptly after that because her friend, who was seeing Combs at the time, suspected there was something going on between Jane and Combs, according to Jane's testimony. Jane testified that the next day, Combs hosted a pool party for them, and on their last day in Miami, they all watched a movie together. She said Combs was texting her during the movie, asking if he could take her out. She testified that she told him that they would be in touch. After Jane left Miami, she said Combs texted and called her. I remember he was flirtatious. He was inviting me to Miami, she said. She said she was hesitant at first because her friend still had feelings for Combs, but after her friend got engaged, she felt she could consider the possibility of being with Combs. Let this be a lesson. Don't do it. Don't do it. The first Miami trip occurred in November 2020. Jane saw Combs again in Miami in January 2021. She had been planning to be in Miami for an event, and Combs offered to book her a hotel room. When Combs walked into her hotel room on the first night of her stay in Miami, he was larger than life, with a big personality and charming, according to Jane's testimony. She said her first day with Combs started with dinner on her hotel balcony that night and lasted 5 days. During the first dinner, they spoke about the father of her child, a man whom Jane said was someone Combs didn't get along with. They also discussed how Jane dated a close friend of Combs around 2015. Combs said he didn't care about any of that. Of course he didn't. You were friends with a woman he was just dealing with. Jane recalled that the first night was amazing and that they made lots of love. They spent the next several days together getting to know each other, according to her testimony. Jane said she was pretty head over heels after spending more time with Combs in Miami in 2021. She and Combs went on another trip in February of that year, she testified. I told him that my birthday was coming up and he was super excited and said we should go on an island getaway. She and Combs went to Turks and Caicos and then the Bahamas. She said his assistant, KK, was there along with the chef, photographer, butler, and barber. They spent about 15 days on the trip. Jane said she remembers so many lovely things about the trip and that she and Combs spent a lot of one-on-one time together. Love bombing. Jane testified that Combs gave her a bracelet that said love on it while on the trip in 2021. Jane and Combs took ecstasy around 10 times over the 9-day trip in Turks and Caicos, she said. Jane said she previously used drugs twice in her life. The first time Combs gave her ecstasy, they were relaxing in a pool, according to her recollection. Holding out the drug to her, Combs said, "Here, take this," and said something like, "It'll be more fun." Shortly after taking the ecstasy for the first time, she fell to the sand on the beach and had a reaction. His butler and KK tried to help me, according to Jane's testimony. KK is a nickname for Combs' former chief of staff, Christina Karam. We'll have more in part 3, linked in the comments. Part 3. Combs offered Jane $10,000 at the end of the trip because she'd been away from her work as an influencer for so long, according to her testimony. He wired her $10,000, which Jane testified was a lot of money for her at the time. Jane said the ecstasy made her feel relaxed, euphoric, sexual. It just enhanced touch and sense and made me feel more loving and flirtatious with him, according to her testimony. Jane testified that she took ecstasy several more times during the trip. Combs provided the drugs and determined her dosage every time. After returning from the trip, Jane said she was even deeper in my feelings for Sean. I want to say we even started to using the L word, she said. I was really deep in it. Were you, or were you under the influence? And love bombed. James said Combs made it clear to her that he liked her, but he was seeing multiple women. I liked him, so I was okay with it, she said. Jane said she understood it was an open relationship and she didn't get the sense that monogamy was an option. In my heart, I just wanted to see Sean, so I was monogamous. She said her relationship with Combs lasted until his arrest. Jane, one of Combs' accusers, who is testifying under a pseudonym, says the two were private about their relationship. She might have only posted on social media about Combs one time, according to her testimony. She lived on the East Coast when they first met, but relocated to California in June of 2021. Combs gave her money, including $6,000 for a moving truck, and periodically transferred her money just because throughout their relationship, she said. From February through May of 2021, she'd see Combs every other week when he'd fly her to see him in Miami. Jane said between February and May of 2021, she did drugs every time she saw Combs, and he offered them when they had sex. They took ecstasy, Molly, cocaine, and ketamine. In that time frame, Jane said she learned a lot about how Combs preferred to have sex. She said, and I quote, I learned how he liked to have pornography playing. I learned how he preferred me to dress, and I just learned the things that he liked sexually. Jane said that he would prefer for her to wear provocative lingerie and really high stripper shoes and to put baby oil on her body and his. She said they would have sex in his bedroom at his home, lit with red lights. They would have sex for 12 to 24 hours. This whole baby oil thing, I have thoughts. Jane testified that she loved these sexual sessions during this period. I really loved my partner, and I was just making love with my partner the whole time, and lots of affection and kissing and love making. She said her relationship with Combs then was very intense. I felt like Sean was really passionate, and he brought out a lot of passion out of me too, she said, and the way he would compliment me and be so into me and just really liked enjoying one another. Um, okay. I, the lengths this man would go to. Jane says she told Combs multiple times that she didn't want to have sex with other men, but he wouldn't listen. Jane estimated that about 90% of the time she had sex with Combs, it would involve another man after their first time doing so in May of 2021. She said she went along with it initially because she really loved Combs and wanted to make him happy. She said, and I quote, I feared losing him. I just wanted to be everything that he wanted. By late 2021, however, Jane said she was telling Combs she didn't want to have sex with other men both in writing and verbally. She mostly told him in writing, Jane testified, because there was tension and Combs was dismissive anytime she broached the subject in person. Whenever the topic came up, it would start out really uncomfortable, Jane said. I could just feel that the tension was building and I would just kind of push down what I was going to say. Combs was dismissive and even called her crazy at times for discussing it. Other times he would say it was fine and they didn't have to do it anymore, but then he would still do it, according to her testimony. Jane testified that Combs paid the rent for her home. When she tried to tell him she didn't want to have sex with other men, Combs would say, "If you want to break up, that's fine," and then he wouldn't pay rent for a woman he wasn't seeing. Jane testified that she wasn't trying to break up in those conversations. She was trying to stop having sex with other men. I felt frustrated, Jane said, adding that she felt obligated to perform these nights for him. Jane testified that it was unpredictable when she would see Combs, and he would sometimes notify her the day or the night before. Jane said she made sure she was always available to see Combs by arranging proper childcare and keeping her hair and nails done for him. She testified that Combs preferred her to have straight hair and light-colored nails. Jane, Jane said Combs called the sexual encounters with other men debauchery or hotel nights. She testified that she and Combs had a hotel night every single time she saw him between May 2021, and October 2023. The two were on a break from October 2023 through February 2024, according to her testimony. She said that she had some time alone after a hotel night with another man, but she felt like it was a hotel night the whole time. Another update will be linked in the comments. Part 4. Jane said her relationship with Combs affected her ability to work and make income. I would say that when I was with Sean, I was really consumed by him. I was really consumed by Sean. Jane testified she made sure she was always ready for Combs at a moment's notice. That sounds exhausting. Okay, I don't even want to be ready for me at a moment's notice. That's But this also goes to show how he's able to control, because the financial abuse, the emotional abuse, the physical. She made some money through social media, Jane said, but my presence on social media really declined after I prioritized this relationship. Combs would periodically give her money, typically in amounts ranging from $5,000 to $10,000 if it was cash. Combs would wire her money if it were a larger amount, according to her testimony. The most he ever gave her at one time was $20,000 when she told him she needed furniture for her home, which he also paid for. At one point, Jane proposed the idea of starting an OnlyFans account to make money. She said her friend made $4 million in 1 year and she thought she could be successful posing content like bikini, lingerie, or nude photos. She wasn't planning to post sexual activity, Jane said, but Combs was hesitant and told her to wait. The man that's getting people to sleep with a woman, he said he's in a relationship with it. Okay. Okay. Jane says that after the two broke up following a fight and got back together, Combs suggested they agree to a contract. Jane described it as a verbal flirting contract. Combs asked Jane how much allowance she would want in a month, and they agreed on $10,000. Jane said she wanted to spend the allowance on a nice home, so Combs agreed to pay the rent instead of paying her the money directly. I just wanted to experience something that was nice, just so I could feel some sort of balance in our relationship, Jane said. Comey showed the jury an email Combs' accountant sent to Jane and her landlord about payments for her rent. Jane testified that between May 2021 and October 2023, she had hotel nights with Combs in Los Angeles, New York, Miami, and Turks and Caicos. Jane usually discussed her travel arrangements with Christina Coram, Combs' former chief of staff, his travel agent, or one of Combs' assistants. Combs paid for the travel. Their times together typically followed a pattern, Jane said. The hotel room would be decorated with red lights, music, and bed sheets and blankets covering everything. She said the linens covering everything for excessive baby oil use. They go through more than 24 bottles of baby oil in a hotel night. Let me know your thoughts in the comments.